In case you were wondering, this is my editing process here. And currently, Toothless is very interested because he's on the screen right now. Can't really see. There he is. Were you confused? Were you confused? Hey everybody, it's January 7th. It's week 2 of 30 and 30. Well, actually, I guess it's the end of week 1 because it's the 7th day of January. But it's the second week that I'm vlogging about doing the 30 and 30 challenge. It's complicated. It's a complicated thing that I'm doing here. So I was able to get Neverwhere finished today. It was a bit touch and go for a while there at work. I just wasn't really getting to a place where I could settle down and listen to it. But I got there and I got it done. So this is my 7th book on my 7th day. Killing it. Door may be my new favorite character. There's a character in this book whose name is Door. And she's awesome. Like, she's just the raddest character. She reminds me of the dog from Up. That might be like a weird comparison, but she reminds me of the dog from Up. She's just super enthusiastic and also really easily distracted. I also started and got a remarkable chunk of the way through the audiobook for The Astonishing Color of After by Emily X.R. Pan. So this one's a contemporary magical realism story about a girl who loses her mother to suicide and is convinced that her mother is sort of reincarnated as this bird. And so she's trying to figure out what her mother is trying to communicate to her as this bird, and she's kind of going through this like spiritual journey through a bunch of historical events that happened to her family and her mother's family. And yeah, it's a weird concept, but it works quite well. It's also like very vivid color imagery throughout, which I guess would make sense based on the title. And it's quite poetical. There's actually like chapters in here that are super short, and they almost read like poems. Just really, really quick poems in the middle of the book. I am about to start Night by Elie Wiesel. I read like the foreword and preface and all of that stuff that's in this very well-loved edition, and already, like, tears. Like, I can't get through the preface of the story without it causing me to well up. Like, it's so hard. So this is a memoir of a man who survived through losing his family while they were at the Auschwitz concentration camp. So yeah, I'm gonna have to follow this one up with like the cutest cute book that I can find. Like, I'm gonna have to read a children's picture book after this one. Hi everybody, it is Tuesday, January 8th, and yeah, I gotta do like a really super quick check-in. I'm not sure if you can see the clock back there, but it's already almost 11. I had to work late tonight, and I need to do this real quick so I can try to continue to go to bed at a reasonable hour, because that's something that I told myself I was going to make a conscious effort to do, and I've been doing pretty okay with that up until the night. But when I don't get home until 9:30, it takes me a while to settle down. But enough of that. Gonna talk about these books real quick. Let me sit down for this. I wasn't tired until I turned the camera on. I was full of energy, and then I turned the camera on, and then I decided to get super exhausted all at once. I finished The Astonishing Color of After. I enjoyed this one quite a lot. It worked on a lot of different levels. It was hard to get through, and I'm someone that's kind of only like peripherally engaged with some of the issues that were dealt with this. Like, I know people who have dealt with stuff like this, and it impacted me enough that I will put some pretty severe warnings for people who struggle with issues of depression and suicide. I still think you may want to try this one, but proceed with immense caution. There were times in this that I got pretty emotional, particularly like some of the descriptions of some of the impacts that depression had on one of the characters in this book, like the way they were acting and everything like that. It hit kind of close to home, and I was struggling through those bits a little bit. But yeah, this makes book 8 of 30 and 30 done. I just hit something. I'm on page 47 of Night, and yeah, this is also really hard to get through. I don't know why I decided to read all of these depressing books at once. But yeah, this is really hard. And it hasn't even gotten to like the hardest parts yet, and I'm already just like a little overwhelmed with it. I read it very slowly last night and kind of paced myself as I was going through it, which is why I'm only on page 47. My cat is going nuts. In my mind, when I started the 30 and 30, I was thinking I need to have a good, like, diversification of books. Like, I need to have a big variety because I want to experience a lot of different stuff and keep myself, like, motivated to pick something up new. But, maybe I should have just gone with a whole bunch of like fun middle grade books. In a way, I kind of feel like I'm doing this book a disservice by rushing through it. So I'm taking my time on this one as much as possible, but I am planning on finishing it soon, just for the sake of getting another book done, and keeping that momentum going. Because so far I'm doing really well, and I wanna keep that momentum going. Speaking of momentum, the Girl on the Train. Transitions that don't really work, but I'm gonna pretend like they do. Yeah, so I started The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins today. I am about 80-ish some pages into this one, and it's okay. I am not a thriller reader. Like, I don't really like thrillers in general. I haven't found that they just appeal to me personally. And yeah, this doesn't really either. It's fine. I'm okay with it. I'm just not enthralled by it. And I feel like the whole reason to read a thriller is because you want to just be like sucked in and you want to know what's going to happen next. And I've just never really had that with thrillers. I don't get engaged by them the way that I feel like they're supposed to engage you. But yeah, this one is very popular and you probably already know what it's about, but in case you don't, it's about a girl who's on a train. No, she's not in a great place in her life. She is very much an alcoholic and to the point where she's blacking out apparently. And while she does her daily commute, she kind of becomes semi obsessed with this couple, and then through certain circumstances of witnessing that this couple's kind of has a falling out, she does more investigating and kind of learns more about this couple and then gets kind of sucked in to an incident that happens with said couple. I'm trying to be vague. I try to go into thrillers super blind, and I really didn't know any of this before I went into it. I literally just knew that the title of this book was The Girl on the Train, so I had a feeling it had to do with a girl and a train. And that was accurate. That was good on me. I had 100% was correct on that assessment. But yeah, overall, I don't think this is going to be a book I'm super into. But I just wanted to try again to diversify, so I thought a thriller would be good. This has been sitting on my shelf for a while, and I figured it was time. So there we go. Hi. Would you like me to serve you a drink? Hey everybody, it is Wednesday, January 9th, and yeah, I'm super rushed again. I'm gonna have to like do really, really quick check-in. But yeah, I finished Night today, and whoo, that was rough. I filmed a little bit like right after I finished it, just so you could kind of get my most immediate reaction. I'm gonna cut that in now, and uh, you'll be able to kind of see my most like fresh reaction after just having finished that. Hey. Um I just finished Night, and I don't even know how to talk about this book. I just read from page like 76 through the rest of it, which is when they're moved to Buchenwald. Bu- Buchenwald. I don't know how it's pronounced. I'm sorry, but that was not pleasant to get through. Um, Honestly, I held strong for the entire rest of the book, and then at the end of it, um, it's got his Nobel Peace Prize acceptance speech from 1986, and that wrecked me. That it destroyed me. It was like all of the emotions of like just reading what I had read, and then just reading his take on how we need to be persistent in making our voices heard when people are being persecuted, that if we remain silent, we are doing nothing but silently supporting the victimizer, and there's no way that remaining silent in a situation where somebody is causing harm to somebody else is benefiting the person that's being harmed. Um, and yeah, it it hurt. It hurt. This book hurt to read. So yeah, um, kind of regretting the choice to do that in the middle of 30 and 30. Um, but it was short, and I was able to get through it pretty quickly. But I think I need like more time to recover after that than I will have, because I want to try to finish 30 books in 30 days. Down there. He ran away. I finished The Girl on the Train, and meh. I mean, the twist I called pretty early on. It was pretty obvious to me, at least. But other than that, I don't know. I feel like part of my problem with thrillers is also that, especially like in this scenario, every single person is just a horrible individual. They're all just the most vile, awful human beings. Everybody's got to have a certain amount of shade thrown on them so that you will suspect them as being the bad guy. Um, and it just makes for like a story that I don't really have anybody to root for, and that's kind of eh. But it is alright, I guess. Hi. What you doing up there? Huh? Hi. You having a good time in the windowsill? Hi. Hi. Oh, there you go. Hey everybody, it is Thursday, January 10th. I am dealing with some sinus headache madness, and I'm not going to be super enthusiastic in this update. So, I started the day having no books that I was in the middle of. Like, I'd finished my physical book yesterday, and I finished my audio book yesterday. So, I started with a clean slate today, and I started thinking about what would be a good book to get to. And I just randomly decided that I was going to start Salt of the Sea by Ruta Sepetys, and knew nothing about this book when I started it, and then quickly deduced that this book was about World War II. And yeah, after reading Night, I decided maybe this wasn't the best book for me to go into. Just for my mental health, maybe I didn't need to jump into this one right away. So I listened to a good 7 minutes of the audiobook of this one and then stopped. I may still get to this one before the end of the 30 and 30, but definitely need to like take a break from that kind of content. So instead, I picked up You're Never Weird on the Internet, almost, by Felicia Day, and listened to the audiobook for this one, which is read by Felicia Day. It was very funny, and it was just like a really genuine and personal story about her anxieties and dealing with fame, especially when you're someone who kind of breaks the mold of gamer, and so much of your fame rides on the fact that you promote yourself as a gamer. So it really resonated with me because I too am a female who enjoys the video game, and so there was a lot of overlap. Also, she was homeschooled and I was homeschooled. So hey, I was one of the early watchers of the guild and have been keeping up with her ever since. I watched her in Buffy, like, it's just me and Felicia Day go way back. After I finished that one, I started the audiobook for a man called Uwe. This is by Frederick Bachman. So this is about a very old, crotchety, grumpy man who just kind of lives the way he feels is the appropriate way to live. And he's lost his wife and is let go from his job. And so he is very isolated and has kind of just decided that he is going to take his own life. This all happens pretty early in the book and is pretty well established, so I don't feel like I'm spoiling anything here. And then through, I guess, circumstances surrounding people in his neighborhood, particularly a young family who have moved in, they kind of, I guess, gradually become part of his life. And yeah, that's where I'm at. It's kind of really the early stages, and the family's just now starting to get a little involved. And so it's gonna be from here on out the development of those relationships, and seeing what happens. Already, it's not the happiest story because it's about an old depressed man who doesn't really have the will to live anymore. Okay, so it's a little later, and I'm feeling just a wee bit better. So I'm going to attempt to actually do a physical read. I'm going to pick up The Magic Misfits, the second story by Neil Patrick Harris. This is about a bunch of children magicians, and yeah, it's quite charming and delightful. So this is the second book, and I'm going to jump into this one. Hey everybody, it is Friday, January 11th. My cat's going insane. I just finished A Man Called Uwe. It's overwhelming how heartwarming this book is. And, like, lots of tears in the final pages of this book. And, yeah, I wasn't fully prepared for that. So yeah, I need to read more Frederick Bachman, apparently, which I have a couple more of his books. And, like, just, they're not the type of books that I would normally go for, but just continually I hear again and again how great his books are. And so I finally bit the bullet and read this one, and yeah, I am part of that consensus that this is really good, and would recommend. Hey everybody, it is Sunday, January 13th. I actually didn't do any reading at all yesterday, so that's why there's not a check-in for the 12th. That's kind of actually rare for me even when I'm not trying to do 30 and 30, so the fact that I was able to do that during 30 and 30, to just take a day to not read, yeah, it was surprising to say the least. I feel like mostly me not reading yesterday was just kind of like a mental health thing and just a endurance thing. Like I needed a break because I've been reading so much since the beginning of the month, and I just needed a day to not worry about reading. But today I'm right back in it, and I finished The Magic Misfits, the second story. This one's from Layla's perspective, and I have a feeling that that's going to be the way that these books are from here on out, where it's just going to be a different perspective from inside the Magic Misfits for each book, and I am totally down for that. I really enjoyed exploring her character further. It worked really well for this one. It was interesting to see Carter, who is definitely the main character of the first book, kind of step back and be just a supportive character and really have Layla shine. And I'm really excited for some of the other characters getting their time in the spotlight, so to speak. I've mentioned several times that I really appreciate characters that genuinely love each other, and that is this to a T. They're all just super supportive and love one another, and there's things that get built up like it's gonna be drama, like somebody, like in this book there's a situation where Layla's really nervous about the fact that she's been keeping a secret from her friends, and it's built up to where it's gonna be a big deal, and when it happens, it's not a big deal at all. Her friends are just super supportive and love her and are happy to be in the loop of the secret, and it's just a beautiful moment. And it's little things like that that's such a minor thing that happens in this book, but there's so many moments of just genuine support and love and care between these characters, and it just makes me so happy. I also started the audiobook for A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallero, and I'm about 100-ish pages in this one. And yeah, this is sort of a retelling, but not really. It feels like a retelling, kind of a gender-bent retelling of like the Sherlock and Watson story, but it's actually like the descendants of, and so they're fully aware, like the books that we read today exist in this universe, and they reference them and talk about them, and it's just kind of the idea of this boy who is a descendant of Watson and this girl that's a descendant of Sherlock becoming friends, and just like the relationships that their families have had over the generations, and kind of the weird, like, sort of animosity. Are you really doing this right now? The families sort of have some animosity towards each other. Like there's a lot of weight to these two meeting, and the Holmes family in this. I mean, Sherlock Holmes apparently just decides that his descendants all have to be exactly like him. Like this family is set up to just breed and raise super detectives. Anyway, that's gonna be my final check-in for this vlog. Bit of an off week for me. I've just had some sickness and then some like just weird like mental blocks while trying to get through some books, but I'm keeping consistent with getting a book done a day. So I'm not worried about completing the 30 and 30 challenge. I just live long and prospered, y'all. But I am learning a lot about this experience, about the type of books that I should be reading. While a variety of books is good, trying to avoid things that give you like book hangovers, like really heavy, hard-hitting books are not good for this kind of reading challenge, because that set me way back this week. I feel like I probably should have been at like 15 or 16 at the end of this week with the momentum that I had going, and I had to slow way down at points during this week because I had such a mental block, because emotionally I was just so distraught by some of the reads that I had chosen, and I didn't want to read anymore. And anytime I started to pick up a book, I got scared, because I was just like, what if this one is also going to just wreck me? Like, what, it may look like light and fluffy, but maybe there's something in here that I'm not aware of, and it's going to wreck me. So that was an issue that I had to deal with several times this week, and that's why I kind of like stepped back yesterday and just like, okay, just take a day off and let yourself like not read for a day, and then revisit and really think, what books do I want to read next, to kind of lift my spirits back up, because man, Night was a mistake. I'm just gonna put that out there right now. Night was a mistake for this particular reading challenge. It doesn't need to be something that you try to rush through, and it doesn't need to be something that you try to put down and immediately start picking up and reading afterwards. It needs to be something that is fully processed and recovered from before you continue on. And yeah, I've learned from that experience. So yeah, we're going to move forward and be very careful about the books that we choose, and see if we can get through the rest of the month. Bye, guys.